Namashreshtam manumapi sachiputram praswarupam rupam tasya grajam uruparim maturim gostavatim radhakundam girivaram aho radhika madhavasam prapto yasya pradita kripaya Shri Gurum tam natosmi. Reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 25. The residents of Varanasi become Vaishnavas. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Mahaprabhu is introducing Prakashananda and his cohorts, his disciples, to Srimad Bhagavatam. And now they've been informed by the Maharashtrian Brahmin about Mahaprabhu's superlative explanation of the Atmaram verse, 61 types of explanations. And so he once again, for the third time, delivers that explanation. Text 161. Eshlokera artha prabhu ekashashti prakara karyachena yaha shuni loke chamatkara. The Maharashtrian Brahmin stated that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had already explained that verse in 61 ways. Everyone was astonished to hear this. Tabe sava loka sunete agraha karila ekashashti artha prabhu vivari kahila. When all the people gathered there, expressed the desire to hear again the 61 different meanings of the Atmaram sloka, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again explained them. Shuniya lokera bada chamatkara haila Chaitanya Goshani Shri Krishna Nirdharila. When everyone heard Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's explanation of the Atmaram sloka, everyone was astonished and struck with wonder. They considered that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was none other than Lord Krishna himself. Etakahi utiya chalila gaura hari namaskara kare loka hari dvani kare. After giving those explanations again, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arose and took his leave. All the people there offered their obeisances unto him and chanted the Mahamantra. Sabakashi vasi kare nama sankirtan preme hase kande gaya karaye nartan. All the inhabitants of Kashi began chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra in ecstatic love. Sometimes they laughed, sometimes they cried, sometimes they chanted, sometimes they danced. Sannyasi pandita kare bhagavata vichara Varanasi pura prabhu karila nistara. After this, all the Mayavad sannyasis and learned scholars at Varanasi began discussing Srimad Bhagavatam. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu delivered them. Nijaloka lana prabhu ailava sagara Varanasi haila dvitiya nadia nagara. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then returned to his residence with his personal associates. Thus, he turned the whole city of Varanasi into another Navadvip. Nijagana lana prabhu kahe hasya kari kashite ami ailana vicheti babakali. Among his own associates, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu laughingly said, I came here to sell my emotional, ecstatic love. Kashite grahaka nahi vastu navikaya punarapi deshi vahilauya nahiyaya. Although I came to Varanasi to sell my goods, there were no customers, and it appeared necessary for me to carry them back to my own country. So Mahaprabhu is talking about the rejection that he initially received from Prakashananda Saraswati and from some of the townspeople influenced by the criticisms of Prakashananda Saraswati. So he has his goods to sell. What are those goods? Krishna Bhakti. Ecstatic Krishna Bhakti. Bhav. Excuse me. Bhav, Krishna Bhav. Radha Bhav. But there were no customers. So he's saying, he was thinking he may have to leave without having distributed the spiritual substance. But Ami Bodja Vahimu Toma Sabara Dukkahaila Toma Sabara Ichaya Vina Mulye Bilaila. All of you were feeling unhappy that no one was purchasing my goods and that I have to carry them away. Therefore, by your will only, I have distributed them without charging. Sabe kahe loka tarete tomara avatara purva dakshina paschima karila nistara. All the Lord's devotees then said, you have incarnated to deliver the fallen souls. You have delivered them in the east and in the south, and now you are delivering them in the west. Not that Varanasi is particularly west, but it's certainly west of Bengal. Paschima. Eka Varanasi chila tomati vimuka taha nistariya kaila ama sabara sukha. Only Varanasi was left because the people there were against your missionary activities. Now you have delivered them. We are all very happy. This has a very happy ending. Although the devotees were a little distressed at first, everything gets turned around by the power of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Varanasi grame yadi kola hala haila suni gram ide shiloka asite lagila. After the news of these events was broadcast, everyone from the surrounding neighborhoods began to pour in to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lakshakoti loka aishe nahika ganana sankirna stane prabhurana paya darashana. Hundreds and thousands of people came to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There was no counting the number because the Lord's residence was very small. Not everyone could see him. Crowding around again. Reminiscent of the house of Vidya Vachaspati. When Mahaprabhu returns to Navadvip, 5 years after taking sannyas. Swamped with people. Prabhu yabe snane yana vishveshvara darashane dui deke loka kare Prabhu vilokane. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to take his bath in the Ganges and to see the temple of Vishveshvara, people would line up on both sides to see the Lord. Bahutuli Prabhu kahe Bala Krishna Hare Dandavat kare loki Haridvani kare. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passed by the people, he would raise his arms and say, please chant Hare Krishna Hare. And all the people received him by chanting Hare Krishna, and they offered their respects to him by this chanting. E mata dina pancha loka nistariya aradina chalila Prabhu Udvignahana. In this way, for 5 days, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu delivered the people of Varanasi. And finally, on the next day, he became very eager to leave. Ratre uti Prabhu yadi karila gamana pache lag laila tabe bhakta panchajana. After rising very early on the 6th day, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started to leave. And 5 devotees began to follow him. Tapana Mishra, Raghunatha, Maharashtriya Brahmana, Chandrasekhara, Kirtaniya, Paramananda, Panchajana. These 5 devotees were Tapan Mishra, Raghunath, the Maharashtrian Brahmin, Chandrasekhara, and Paramananda Kirtaniya. Sabe chahe Prabhu Sange Nilachala Yaite, Sabare Vidaya Dila Prabhu Yatna Sahite. These 5 wanted to accompany Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Jagannath Puri, but the Lord attentively bade them farewell. Yanra icha pache aisha amare dikite, ebe ami eka yamu jari kanda pate. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, if you want to see me, you may come later, but for the time being, I should go alone through the Jarikanda forest. So, returning via the path that he had come by, through the Jarikanda forest. Not the main path, the back roads, through the jungle. Tracks. I wonder what the tracks were like at that time. Were they wide enough for chariots? Maybe, but maybe not. Because they were very desolate, very remote. And that's why Mahaprabhu is pretty much camping in the forest. And as we'll see here, the Jarikanda part, the famous Jarikanda pastimes, famous for dancing with the animals, inspiring the animals and fusing them with Krishna Prem, Madhura Ras, so that their natural instincts were temporarily overridden, or maybe permanently overridden. We don't know. Maybe they all left their physical bodies and went to the spiritual realms. But either way, definitely temporarily, when they came into contact with Gauranga Mahaprabhu, they began to, their consciousness, even though they're in animal bodies, their consciousness was awakened, their spiritual consciousness, and they began to behave in ways which matched that state of consciousness, transcended their animal bodies, their animal consciousness. So this, as we'll see very shortly, this also happened on the way back, and this was related to the devotees by Mahaprabhu's companion, servant, whose name is Balabhadra Bhattacharya. So he was there to witness all of this. So the forest path, remote, like jungle passes and tracks running through the hills. There's not so many tigers in that place anymore. If you look at the range for tigers, up until about 140 years ago, the range for tigers covered a large geographical area, much of India, much of China, but then spreading west through what is now Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, and even up to the southern Caucasus, around the Caspian Sea, there were tigers. And now it's it rapidly shrunk with industrialization, and now there's just small pockets here and there where there's tigers in the wild. But in Mahaprabhu's day, pretty much all of India was tiger habitat. There were tigers all over India. And in a corridor all the way to, as mentioned, the Caspian Sea area. Yeah. All sorts of animals.
Do you feel like telling us a bit about the
Mahamantra.
We discussed the other day.
Mahaprabhu inspired the animals in the Jarikanda forest to chant the Mahamantra. Hari Hari. Yeah. What specifically about the Mahamantra?
It existed, it always existed.
Jai Shri Chaitanya. Yes, well, it's considered eternal. It's considered eternal. Why? Because it is the name of God. God is eternal. Krishna. Krishna is name considered non-different. Nam, Rup, Gun, Lila, name, form, attributes, activities. They're all eternal. They're all of the same substance. But, I mean, essentially, the Mahamantra, it is considered the Yuga Dharma, which means the practice, the process of practice, spiritual practice for this yuga, for this epoch.
It was considered like this since Mahaprabhu, but before him, would people sing it? What consideration would people have for this mantra?
It was considered a Vedic mantra, so it was treated as such, given the same treatment as any Vedic mantra, where it would be chanted by brahmanas in certain contexts.
Was there such thing as a kirtan? Or some
Yes.
for sure not, right?
Well, there was some types of group congregational singing, but it wasn't introduced. The Yuga Dharma as such was inaugurated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Okay.
So, yeah, the concept of Sankirtan was not really practiced so much, and it certainly was not practiced with consideration of it being the Yuga Dharma, the process for the current epoch. Those were all introductions of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. But it was a Vedic mantra. It's in the Puranas, Agni Purana, Brihad Naradiya Purana. Both those it's mentioned in both those Puranas. Kali is famously mentioned in the Upanishads as well. Kali Santaran Upanishad. So it's the Mahamantra as such is mentioned in many places.
Okay.
But its introduction and usage as the Yuga Dharma, that is Mahaprabhu's contribution.
Okay.
It's not the Yuga Dharma, it wasn't considered the Yuga Dharma for the previous ages. As we know, the previous ages had their own methods for spiritual practice and enlightenment, such as Satya Yuga was meditation, and Treta Yuga was fire worship, fire yagyas, fire rituals, we can say. And Dwapara Yuga is archana, kind of what we'd call deity worship today. Something akin to that. And Kali Yuga is Nam Sankirtan, introduced by Mahaprabhu. So Nam Sankirtan needn't just be the Hare Krishna Mahamantra.
Sorry?
Nam Sankirtan, the Yuga Dharma, needn't just be the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Yeah, it's not exclusively just Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Nam Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Primarily, you could say, but any names of Krishna can be chanted. So, Harinam Sankirtan is the Yuga Dharma. Harinam meaning the names of Hari, the names of Vishnu, or God, Krishna. So when Mahaprabhu began the Sankirtan movement, began the Yuga Dharma, he hadn't like introduced the Hare Krishna Mahamantra per se.
Okay.
He was chanting more like Hari Haraya,
Okay.
Nama Krishna, Gopal Govinda Ram Sri Madhusudan. That was what he was chanting in Navadvip. But then the mantra, the Maha Mantra, was introduced later. I don't know if there's an actual incident where it's introduced. I'm not aware of it, because there's no actual mention of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra in the in the biographies of Mahaprabhu.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you won't find it in the Chaitanya Charitamrita as such, like listed, or in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, Chaitanya Mangal. So when it was, like you say, formally introduced, if there was such an incident, I don't know when it was. At some stage. Perhaps Gurudev talks about it somewhere, but it doesn't come to mind where right now. But it was certainly introduced by Mahaprabhu at some stage. In some places it's given half and half. Guru Maharaj says, Guru Maharaj talks about this in different books. I think Search for Sri Krishna actually is covered. There's a chapter in Search for Sri Krishna. And other places. But it's definitely covered there. Search for Sri Krishna. Reality the Beautiful. And Guru Maharaj says that it's either there or elsewhere, that the mantra, when it's given in the Vedic literatures, Upanishads, Puranas, because it's in both Upanishads and Puranas, that sometimes it's Hari with Hari Ram first, Hari Ram, 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 Hari Hari, then Hari Krishna, 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 Hari Hari. And but Mahaprabhu taught it with Krishna, the Krishna coming first. And there's some people that say, well, it was a Vedic mantra, and Vedic mantras are considered to have a counterproductive effect if they're chanted by people who are not qualified to chant them. Mm-hmm. So Vedic mantras, their chanting is conditional to the purity, or there's a certain eligibility to chant them. Mm-hmm. One must be living a pure lifestyle. One must have proper pronunciation. In other words, one must be pure and educated in the chanting. Or in other words, you could say one has to be a Brahmana. Because in that culture you had the Brahmana class. And they were custodians of the mantras. Or the mantra shastra, the science of the mantras, was the domain of the Brahmanas.
Only.
Pretty much. Exclusively, yeah. And so Mahaprabhu broke with that custom by taking what was a Vedic mantra and giving it out to everyone, distributing it freely to the public. It was breaking with tradition. Of course, it wasn't approved of by the Brahminical orthodoxy of the time. They want to maintain their monopoly. But, so some say Mahaprabhu said, all right, we'll change it around then. Instead of Hari Ram, Ram Ram, Hari Hari, Hare Krishna, 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 Hari Hari. He changed it to Hare Krishna, swapped the verses around, swapped the lines around. Mm-hmm. And Guru Maharaj says that this is what some section of devotees say. Not so much in Bengal, but in another place, Uttar Pradesh. So that could be true. Guru Maharaj recounts that. But that is not that that's necessary for Mahaprabhu to do, to change it around so that it's technically not the original mantra. Actually, in some places it is given with Hare Krishna first. So Mahaprabhu made it available for everyone, for the masses. Is that what you wanted to know?
Completely, thank you so much. I also heard that construction, the way it is built, the way this Mahamantra is built, grammatically, is a way to address the Lord without saying explicitly, I'm entrusting to you, I'm praying you to manifest yourself in me, without saying it explicitly. The form says it, currently.
Where is that recorded? Huh? Where did you read that?
That's what I understood from what she said. While in, for example, Christianity, we address the Lord by saying, "Please, Lord, I'm praying to you," blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Is that a good understanding? Did I understand it properly? I mean, we're asking the Lord to manifest Himself without asking it explicitly, apparently.
Could be, yeah. I mean, if that's what Vishaka is saying, then I'm sure there's some substance to it.
That's what I understood from what she said. So
okay.
That's why I wanted to know if it's correct.
Yeah. I read recently where I think Gurudev was saying that the Mahamantra is not an appeal as such. So it's not a request for anything. It's simply trying to come in contact with the spiritual substance. But then again, I've heard, that chant in a mood of wanting. Literally, it's not an appeal. But perhaps, the chanting that does have a non-literal appeal in terms of that non-literal meaning that the motive, the mood of the chanter is appealing for devotion, appealing for service, appealing for a spiritual connection. So although the mantra is not literally, right, it's not grammatically what's called like a supplication, give me this, give me that, or what have you, an appeal for anything, still the spirit of the chanter is then one of requesting service. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, there's no particular... the mantra is not like a request for anything particular. It's not a prayer as such in that regard.
It's just celebrating the Lord, you would say? What is it?
It's an address. It's an address to the Lord. It's trying to come in contact with Krishna. And it is simply Krishna's names. They're complete in themselves. So it's like if Krishna is present, then that's complete in itself. There's no need for anything else as such. If the Supreme is present, everything is satisfied. So there's no deficiency. So in the holy name, Krishna's name, there's no deficiency. It's complete, it's full. So simply coming in contact with it is sufficient. The only problem being that there's blocks. In the process of coming in contact with it, there's blocks. And those blocks need to be removed. But the name itself, contact with that, is contact with Krishna. So it's an address to Krishna, but it's an address to Radha. Essentially, it's an address to Radha Krishna. When Gurudev was, I remember his last visit to London, 2007, he gave a very nice explanation of the holy name. It's there on YouTube. If you Google Srila Govinda Maharaj London 07, you'll see it. He chants a bhajan, I think it's Hari Haraya Nama Krishna, and then gives an explanation for the holy name. I believe it's on that video. It's definitely at 07, I think, London visit. And he talks about how Hara represents Srimati Radharani. So you hear a more generic explanation saying that Hari is the energy and Krishna the person. But the energy of Krishna is the personification of that energy. Shakti is energy. So the energy is Hladini Shakti. The personification of that is Srimati Radharani. So Hari Krishna is saying Radha Krishna, an address to Radha Krishna. And Hari Rama, although, when Swami Maharaj Prabhupada was explaining it, he would keep sometimes things very, very simple. Very, very simple for his disciples. Otherwise, there is a tendency to overcomplicate for them as beginnings, and they would, or they would overcomplicate it and misunderstand or misconstrue. So we say Hare Rama, yes, Rama, Balaram, Lord Ram. But the higher conception is that the Ram is in Raman, as in Krishna being the pool of infinite pool of ananda, ecstasy, enjoyment, pleasure. So Hare Krishna, Radha Krishna, and then Hare Rama. So it's an address to Radha Krishna. And yeah, there's no supplication. I mean, those are simply the names of God. So there's no give me this, give me that. It's simply the name. You can request maybe the name to appear in your heart. So in that sense, yeah, it's the mood, the spirit may be one of requesting the name to manifest itself. But it's not an appeal for anything specific. The name itself has its own full power, as was experienced by the animals in the Jharkhand forest. So the devotees are wanting to follow Mahaprabhu as he leaves Jagannath Puri, as he leaves Varanasi for Jagannath Puri. And he bids farewell to all the devotees. So we'll finish there. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakti Vrinda. Revealed Truth, Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj. There's a very short sub-chapter today. Mahaprabhu is, again, as mentioned, we're in sync, Chaitanya Charitamrita and Revealed Truth. This sub-chapter is entitled, Why Am I Sitting on This Throne? The meeting of Mahaprabhu and Prakashananda Saraswati passed in this way. Another day, Prakashananda saw Chaitanya Dev going to take his bath in the Ganges. Mahaprabhu was dancing on his way, chanting Hare Krishna with a crowd of people dancing along with him. Prakashananda was stunned to see Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan. From far away, Prakashananda saw Mahaprabhu dancing in Krishna Prem with so many pious souls in Sankirtan in the middle of the road. He was very attracted and thought, oh, I need this, actually. What have I been doing my whole life? I have been a Sampradaya guru for so long, but I see now that I need this, what this young man has. He is following his guru's order and has become intoxicated with a mood of divine ecstasy. He dances and chants the Hare Krishna Mahamantra as tears pour from his eyes. His whole body trembles and he perspires. All ecstatic symptoms appear in his body. He is so happy and joyful. What am I doing sitting in the chair of an acharya? Jai Shri Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. You want to sing?
Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha.
Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha.
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Gopala Govindara Srimad Sudana.
Gopala Govinda Ram Srimad Sudana.
Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohana.
Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohana.
Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra.
Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra.
Garadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Garadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Shri
Prabhupada Bhakti Santa Govinda Deva Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Jai Vishnu Prabhupada Bhakti Rakha Sri Deva Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Jai Vishnu Prabhupada Bhakti Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Rupa Nupa Guru Bharat ki jai. Ramacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Samveda Vaishnava Mandal ki jai. Samveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswati Mat ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswati Mat West London ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai.
Haribo.